What is up, DrWLH Nation? I'm your host.
Okay. Serious this time. When you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, all of the red flags just look like flags. That is a quote from the spectacular Netflix series BoJack Horseman, and I find it very nicely summarizes this entire situation I'm about to discuss. I told myself that I wasn't going to make this video unless the person in question did something else severe enough to warrant me addressing it along with everything else that she has done previously. And well, here I am. Hello my kid in the army, my name is EHX-KOR, as I'm sure you know by now. This video isn't gonna be like my other videos where I make fun of the idiocy of some other YouTube user, or the videos where I showcase the internet's most ridiculous things in existence. Well, this is a very ridiculous thing, but not in a humorous sense. Now, I'm aware that I've put this script on the back burner far too many times, and I've left it there for much too long on far too many occasions as life continues to get in the way of my working on it. Call this a call-out video if you would like to. Call me a shit disturber if you want. I really don't care at this point, the person I'm about to talk about. I'm making this video because I've gone through hell and back with this person, and it seems as though it's never going to be over no matter what I do. I'm making this video to clear my name of the bullshit and the lies that it's been tainted with, and to finally set the record straight. And I'm making this video so hopefully none of you will ever have to deal with anything that I and many other people have had to put up with, all dubbed by this one person. And this person is Skids the Schizo, or more well known as DeviantART's the Skittles22. I predict that upon finding this video, if she happens to do so, she'll watch the first 2 minutes of it before she stops to have a sort of temper tantrum. She will then turn to DeviantART and create a fairly large, hatred-fueled call-out journal, sending her army of watchers to dislike my videos on the subject, all while completely disregarding the criticisms that I present within them. If you were around a while back when I was still making just speed paints, you may have seen a video that I posted where she featured as a guest. And you may have even seen some of her videos on my channel. In short, she used to be my friend, and very close friend at that. I'm going to tell you the story of our friendship and the nightmare that it eventually turned into. Before I fully get into it, there are two things I'd like to do. First off, I want to restate my intro disclaimer. Do not hunt this girl down with any intention of harassing or irritating her in any way. Do not start calling her out on DeviantART and tagging her in posts. And please, do not attempt to otherwise engage with her. Just leave her alone. Because contrary to what she will undoubtedly say about me, I don't condone harassment or witch hunting of any kind. Secondly, due to the general seriousness of this topic, I'm not going to be including any fan art at the beginning of this video, nor will I be including any in however many related videos this turns out to have. Also, I'd like you to keep in mind that this is roughly 5 years worth of information and events, so I may miss things, I may misorder things, and I may make some mistakes. Thanks. So, it all started somewhere between March and May of 2013, when I came across a drawing she had made. It was just a really simple picture of an OC of hers titled, "I'm Not Insane," or something edgy like that. I had thought about just forgetting about it and moving on, but I decided to comment on it, and brace yourselves. You may not be, but I sure am. Fucking cringe, right? Well, I guess she found it funny enough to respond to, and we sort of had this instant click. I was 15 at the time, and I believe she was 14. She was pretty new to DeviantART, having only been on the site for about 5 months to a year maximum. I had been on the website for a few years, but I had moved accounts since I first signed up. Around this time, I was having some problems with another girl who is no longer my friend. This information will become relevant later on in the story. We instantly started off role-playing. And oh boy, did we do this a lot. I'm sure I could still locate some of our earliest roleplay messages dating all the way back to mid-2013 if I really wanted to. Though that wouldn't have much relevance to the story, other than that was how our friendship started. Our roleplays mainly consisted of the typical edgy teen shit. Fighting, murder, and some not so safe for YouTube subject matter, if you get what I'm saying. At that point in time, we communicated more through roleplay than just regular conversation, which began publicly on DA before we moved to Notes, and then eventually to Skype. Now, while this video is mainly going to be about the bad, the negative things that she did both while we were friends and after our friendship ended, I can't leave out the positive experiences, for that would simply be dishonest. Near the beginning of our friendship, we began calling each other on Skype. She was the first online friend of mine that I had ever voice chatted, let alone video chatted with. This call I will never forget, not only because of the awkwardness in the beginning, but because of the feel-good vibes we had from the whole thing in itself. It was a good time. Hell, it was a great time. And we had a lot of great times like this. But this one was absolutely the most memorable for those reasons I just stated. Not too long after this connection we had, my other friend who I was struggling with and I had an explosive falling out due to Kick Messenger. This blow-up of emotion and anger was essentially her calling me names while I tried to express to her why I was feeling so lonely and depressed all the time and how she could help me overcome it. But she didn't want any of that, and instead threw whatever insults she could at me, like, I never liked you, and I hated you from the beginning, and so forth. Sydney actually helped me get through this tough situation. She came and she comforted me. She gave me the shoulder to lean on for emotional support through what was, in a sense, a very bad breakup. And I'm still grateful for that action. At that time in my life, I didn't really have anyone to go to for emotional support, especially not for something like this. So it was great knowing that I had someone who understood what I was going through. This will, again, become more relevant down the line. Now, during our early times chatting on Skype, we would sometimes have the absolute delight of her biological father swinging by. And of course, when I say absolute delight, I really mean a sort of experience that both of us dreaded more than most things. This man was not a nice man. In fact, he was kind of a horrible man. He was abusive in many ways. He often teased us while on call, made fun of my, at the time, alias name, which some people still refer to me as. By the way, please stop, there's a reason I changed it. He committed some pretty nasty acts prior to my meeting her, and for obvious reasons, I'm not going to unveil this particular information. I remember one day he had violated the restraining order Sid and her mother had enacted against him, as he often did. He grabbed her iPad from her hands and held it up in the air, while we were on call, let me remind you. I remember seeing her try to take it back from him while he was threatening to smash the device before the call abruptly ended. This was one of the worst events that I had seen with him, but I'm sure that much worse went on behind closed doors and powered down screens. Now that we have a little bit of backbone to this story, we can continue. At the time that I had met her, I think she had about 4 or 5 friends, one of which was a friend from school who also happened to be an artist. She would occasionally talk about these friends, sometimes positively, other times negatively. Keep in mind, I didn't know any of these people. There were a lot of warning signs that I didn't seem to notice or just simply ignored. Either way, me not expecting what I should have can't possibly just be her fault, as it likely was mine as well. She tended to talk a lot of smack about other people, more than the average person does. She'd call her friends childish, immature, at times clingy and/or obnoxious, not really taking into account her own irony. I suppose I was just used to people doing that to each other, so I never really thought much of it. Because of that, I never really took into consideration what she could have potentially been saying to others about me. That was one of the first red flags that I should have taken into account. Not necessarily the gossiping itself, but the fact that she was so open to speak so negatively of others to someone who she had just met. She tended to do this thing where she would get me to finish her art for her, and we'll run into at least a couple of these instances throughout this story. Around Christmas time of 2013, this was about 7 months into our friendship, she had drawn this big picture for all of her friends that included a bunch of their characters. Well, all of her friends except for me, the one who she considered her best friend at the time. No, instead she came to me and begged me to color the damn thing for her, for free, telling me that she was too lazy to color it and she liked my coloring better. So I spent hours of my free time outside of school and working a part-time job to color this poorly outlined picture that included 8+ characters, none of which were even mine, with no payout in return. She would constantly request updates, and I'm talking every day pretty much, even though she knew very well that I had other responsibilities that took priority over her present to her other friends that she wrote me into doing 3/4 of the work for. And when it was finally finished, I barely got a thank you. And again, I received absolutely nothing in return for my time and effort. The most I got was a credit link at the bottom of the submission description. That thing that nobody reads. None of her friends had acknowledged that it was me who had colored it, nor thanked me for doing so. Aside from that incident alone, not a whole lot happened within the first year that we had known each other. Things were good this year. Or, as good as they can be when you're a pair of suicidal high schoolers. During this first year, I was finishing off my 10th grade year of high school and going into my 11th. During the second half of my 11th grade year, I got into a certain musician's work, so naturally I told her about it, and she soon became a fan as well. I'll refer to them as Artist X. This seems irrelevant now, but it'll be more important coming up. Remember when I brought up my YouTube channel at the beginning of this story? This is where that part starts to gain a little bit of relevancy. I started making speed paint videos again, and posting them on YouTube. It was really just a sporadic thing. I didn't have an upload schedule or anything like that. Hell, I still don't really have a solid schedule. It was just another way I could share my artwork. Well, soon Sid became pretty interested in YouTube. However, instead of going through the super easy process of making a YouTube account of her own, she instead ended up using mine. This began to cause some problems. This first started out with her emailing me her videos through Gmail, and then I would edit and publish them. That didn't last very long though, as she claimed that she had a problem with her iPad, and she could no longer send me her videos, as she claimed that they weren't exporting correctly or some bullshit. And I know it's bullshit, because I've tried the exact same piece of software that she uses to draw on her iPad, which is Procreate, and I had absolutely no problems exporting the timeless video to my photo library. She wouldn't leave me alone about it, and so I just decided to give her access to my account. This is where the problems started. Every time she would log into my account, and then I would log back in, Google would force me to change my password, because the system believed that my account had been compromised due to someone from where she lives using my account, which is from Canada. This made sense, and after a few more times of doing this and having to go through this ridiculous process, I just decided that was enough and it wasn't going to work. However, something happened while she was logged into my account. To no one's surprise, Artist X had a YouTube channel, and we both knew about it and followed it pretty regularly. While she was logging into my account, she thought it was a good idea to spam comment on their YouTube channel about 4 or 5 times. Just blatantly self-advertising on their profile, before bragging it about it on DeviantArt. I wish I still had the screenshots that she had posted, but alas, she deleted them a couple years ago. I was disgusted by this behavior, and I had to go back, remove the comments, and apologize and explain the situation. That was the last time that I let her use my YouTube account. Despite my telling her why, I can imagine that to this day she still does not understand why I revoked access for her. The first time I can really remember her manipulation being put to use was when I was still working at my first job. I was working at a local coffee joint. A lot of teens work here at their first job, and I definitely happened to be one of them. Many times I would have to leave calls because I had to go to work, and most of the time I'd get an over-exaggerated "aww" coupled with a sigh. One day it was different. She began crying when I told her I had to leave. She asked if I could stay for 5 more minutes. Me, being the more gullible person that I was, obliged, and she immediately exited out of her little performance on the mic into a happy yay. Since then I stopped trying to end calls with her, and my sleep greatly suffered because of it, as we would call for hours on end, and they wouldn't end until the wee hours of the morning. This next thing I'm bringing up mainly because it will be referred to later on, and I want to provide proper and accurate context to it. Over the summer of 2014, I went to summer school as I had also done in 2013, back when I had that terrible argument with that other girl. In fact, this would have marked the sort of 1-year anniversary of the incident. I was still pretty bitter about it, and Sid was bitter with me. One day, the two of us devised an idea that was extremely petty. We had created a fake account on DeviantArt to attempt to befriend this girl, the imagined owner of which we planned on killing off tragically in a couple of years. The intent was to make her upset, Sort of a way to make her experience what I had experienced with her. Fucking pathetic, I know. Clearly it goes without saying, I don't condone this behavior. I'm making this clear right now, because if I don't, Sid will most definitely attempt to use it against me later on. And I know this because she already has on multiple occasions. More on that later when it arises. Coming to a close with the summer of 2014, I began to work more heavily on a story that I had been previously just dabbling around with. It was initially going to be a sort of alien invasion type story, but with the roles reversed and a lot more politics involved. She began to grow deeply interested in the story, and we started to throw around ideas for a multitude of hours. She became a sort of co-writer, and that was a title she was extremely proud to wear at the time. I can confidently say that this story would absolutely not be the same as it is now without the developments that she had assisted with, even despite the numerous changes it had gone through since her leaving the project. The year of 2014 was when I really hit a low point emotionally, especially coming to a close for the year. In November of 2014, I was at my worst, having been hospitalized for 2 weeks after confessing to my high school guidance counselor that I had essentially lost all will to continue living. This was my final year of high school, and the stress was becoming far too much for me to handle. I'm not going to talk too much about my experience hospitalized in this video, though if you are interested, leave a comment to let me know, and perhaps I'll do a video for it all on its own. When I left unexpectedly. I didn't really have the chance to tell many people what was going on, so I can't remember exactly how Sid found out, considering at the time I didn't have any cell data included in my phone plan, and I could only communicate with her if I had a secure internet connection. So I was in hospital care for a total of 2 weeks, and in the middle of those 2 weeks I was allowed to go home for the weekend. This was the weekend of Black Friday 2014. Which means I ended up going home the day after the American Thanksgiving holiday, and I was to return on Sunday evening. The first thing I did when I got home on Friday evening was to give her a ring over Skype. She told me she was worried that I had done something. She said she had nightmares where I had downed pills or slit my throat. It was a very emotional call. Looking back on it today, I can't help but feel like she was subtly trying to make my situation all about her. This could just be due to my now heavily warped perception of her, but of course, it could also not. This is something that I still struggle with understanding to this day. We talked a lot over that weekend. It was the only time that we would speak until I was discharged a week later, so I could travel to Mexico for a destination wedding in my family. And even while on vacation, I spent a pretty sizable portion of it in the hotel room, on call with her over Skype. This was around the time I first noticed my desire to talk with her growing dimmer and dimmer. Our conversations began to turn quite stale, as they mainly consisted of the same elements each and every time. There were only 3 things she ever really wanted to talk about: my comic in the works, and when I say that, I truly mean her asking a bunch of questions that I simply couldn't answer at the time. Filthy Frank, a YouTuber who her behavior has completely repelled me from for a number of years, and every single problem she's ever had in her entire fucking life. Stop. Why do you have to make the call so fucking depressing? Just cut it out. I want something that isn't gonna make me want to tear my eyes out and shove them in my ears just to make everything stop. Now hear me out. I understand that she needed someone to vent to from time to time. I mean, everyone does, right? I had no issues with helping her out when she needed it. In fact, she knew full well that she could always come to me if she ever needed to talk to someone about anything. However, when it becomes an everyday affair, anyone would be able to understand why I was becoming quite frustrated with the situation at hand. Throughout high school, my mother and I were definitely not on the best of terms, and Sydney grew to absolutely despise her. She would speak nastily about her behind her back. She would say things that I wouldn't dare say. She had no filter, and she still doesn't. I regret talking to her about my family problems, because one afternoon she got into a fight with her. I was talking to her on Skype in the dining room. My mom was in the kitchen. I can't remember exactly what it was, but my mom said something to me, and this set Sydney off. She shouted, and I'm paraphrasing this because I don't quite remember what exactly she had said, but it was something along the lines of, "Shut your fucking mouth, you fat cunt." I immediately left the house after she did this, and left her on call with my mom. The situation escalated from 0 to 100 in mere seconds, and I simply wasn't prepared to deal with it in that moment, so I fled. I was out for approximately 2 hours, if my memory serves me right. It was chilly out. I didn't have a sweater or a jacket on me, and I wasn't about to risk going back home to grab one with the flames still on high. When I did return home, I felt the need to sneak in as to not disturb the silence of the house. This is where I'm going to end this first video. If you are interested, fear not, as I do have an update planned for part 2. So please, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, and hit the little bell button so you don't miss the next video. Be sure to like and share if you actually enjoyed it and you would like to share the video with your friends. And I'd also like to say, for those of you who have your own YouTube channels, feel free to mirror this video if you wish. And as always, I hope you guys are having a great evening, or morning. Time zones are weird. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace the X out.